Welcome to our episode of Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down. Sponsored by Bible Interact and hosted by Dr. George Sparks. Today's special guest is experienced field archaeologist Dr. David E. Graves. Now let's explore the field of archaeology in today's episode.
Well, good day, good evening to everybody that's watching the program today. This is Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down, sponsored by Bible Interact. I'm sure you already know that. Today, my special guest is Dr. David Graves. He received his PhD from Aberdeen University in Scotland. Today, he's going to be talking about Sargon II from the Neo-Assyrian period. I believe it's around 722, and I believe Sargon passes away around 705. He gave me a heads up and said he's going to be talking about the winged bulls. This is going to be interesting. I want to find out about what kind of bull is going on in Assyria. Dr. David Graves, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks, George. Always good to be with you.
Let me also inform people that you have over 30 years experience in the Near East and excavating at places like Qumran, where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Tell El MacArthur, a biblical candidate for the lost city of Ai, spelled A-I-I. Also, he dug at Shiloh with Dr. Scott Stripling and Dean Gary Byers, and he was excavating a My Square supervisor at Tel El Hammam in Jordan. Once again, a candidate for biblical asylum. Now that you got the heads up, let me also inform people, do you have a book that you want to share with us today?
Yes, I've been busy doing some things for children, some coloring books. So the whole family can get in this archaeology idea and notion. So I'm going to be promoting those a little bit here in a moment. So I get my shared screen up here and some of the Assyrian Annals. And this is one of the tablets here, and the materials found in my book on the archaeology of biblical people, where I deal with all the people mentioned in the Bible and all the archaeology behind them. My coloring books, I have one on the Old Testament, 30-some plates, and here's my New Testament one, and my coloring book on biblical people that's just been published. So there's 3 of them available now for those that want to do a little coloring. So they're all available on Amazon. If you just go in, I think you just have to do a search for Bible Archaeology and David Graves, and you'll find them. And they range in price. I think they're anywhere $15 to $20, something like that. Great stocking stuffers. So now we get back to our topic of the day, the Annals of Sargon II. And these were found at a place called Khorsabad in modern-day Iraq, discovered in 1843 by the guy by the name of Emil Botta. That's his portrait right there. And it's located in the British Museum today. It mentions Sargon and Tartarans. He was the commander. Mentions Ashdod, recorded in Isaiah chapter 20. And the conquest of Samaria, that's the land of the house of Omri in 721 BC. This is the area that Sargon controlled, quite extensive. It ranges all the way up to Bugaskoy up here in Turkey. This is modern-day Turkey. And then, of course, the area of Israel and Palestine, Syria, and then down into Iraq and Iran, down as far as the Persian Gulf. So this whole area was under the control of Sargon. It was called Akkad. Thus, we get the Akkadian Empire, 722 to 705 BC. Now, he was the brother of Shalmaneser V, the son of Tiglath-Pileser III. That's his the hierarchy here. Here's all the pictures of all the folks in the family, all wearing the same kind of, it looks like the Turkish fez hat you see today in Turkey. This would put Sargon II in the same time period as we looked last week, around Micah and Isaiah the prophets, and Ahaz and Hoshea up in Israel in the northern kingdom. That's where he would be situated, right here at the fall of Israel, fall of Samaria, capital of Israel at the time. And Isaiah 20 says, in the year that the commander-in-chief, that would be Tartan, who was sent by Sargon, the king of Assyria, came to Ashdod and fought against it and captured it. At that time, the Lord spoke by Isaiah, the son of Amos, as my servant Isaiah, who walked naked and barefoot for 3 years as a sign and a portent against Egypt and Cush. So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptian captives and the Cushite exiles, both the young and the old, naked and barefoot, with buttocks uncovered, the nakedness of Egypt. You imagine being a prophet running around for 3 years naked and barefoot. Quite the object lesson.
But they got beaches for that today.
That's right. They sure do. This is a brick found now today in the Vatican Museum. And it reads, Sargon, king of the universe, built the city. The fortress of Sargon is its name. Within, he has the unrivaled palace built. And so it talks about its palace and he being the king of the universe. They would stamp all these bricks, make them, they did them for all the different kings. And there's a brick recording his name there, another piece of one. That's in the British Museum as well. Another fragment in the Israeli Museum, a couple of pieces with his name on it. And here are a number of the prisms that have been discovered. And they all talk about some of the victories and the exploits of the different kings of the time. And this is probably the most famous one. Chronicles the expedition of Sargon II against Babylon, Midian, Syria, and Palestine. Mentions the conquest of Samaria, the land of the house of Omri. Remember, Omri was the house of David, and that's from which he came in 721 BC when this happened. This is the prism of Sargon with foundation text, and this mentions the conquest of the house of Omri, Neo-Babylonian enclave, and you'll notice it's all in the cuneiform script. And it reads, I again settled Samaria more than it had previously been settled. So he went there, took it over, settled it. Also, we know Sargon II from Lamassu. Now, Lamassu are kind of interesting. These are the winged bulls that George mentioned earlier. And these are found at Khorsabad as well by Bota and abandoned there, just too big to handle. But Henry Rawlinson cut it in 2 pieces in 1849 and carted it off to the British Museum. It's Rawlinson there and Bota. It describes Sargon's capture of Samaria and the destruction of Ashdod in 711 BC. What's interesting here is in the red underneath the legs of this particular Lamassu is where the writing was placed, so we know what was going on. Another thing you might notice, the audience out there, have a look. How many legs do you see? How many feet do you see on the Lamassu? You can count them up. There's 5 of them. You might say, whoa, what's going on? You got a 5-legged bull walking along? No, it's because when they did these, they would do them in 3D perspective, and it's as though the Lamassu is walking, and that's why you have the 5 legs. There's a close-up of his face, and usually the image of the emperor, of Sargon II himself, with his beard, looking up his nose there. This is what it looked like when Bota discovered it. They're found on the 2 posts of the arch of the gate, and they usually stand guard in protection of the city against adversaries and so forth. You see how big they are. This is the watercolor that was done, the drawing that was done by Henry Layard when he found 2 of them. See how far under the ground they are. And they had them all carted, taken down, and carted off to the British Museum. Now, today you'll find them in a number of different museums. There's not just 1 or 2 of them. There's a whole lot of them. They come from various cities because every city had their own gate and every gate had its own Lamassu. So they're found in the Louvre, British Museum, the National Museum of Iraq, in Baghdad, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, and the Chicago Institute of the Oriental Institute Museum. I've been to probably, I think, 4 of those different museums, and I've got some photos of them. Here's one that was just recently found in 2000, last year, in 23. Found another one. Head missing, of course. It was chiseled off, but you see the wing, the base gives you an idea how large they are. There's another one. These ones are in Iran. This one's Persepolis. And then you have the Oriental Institute, Ancient Orient Museum in Istanbul. This one's from Iraq. Asher. This one's Lamassu's at the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. And some of the relief panels, they've displayed them similarly to the way they have them displayed at the British Museum. This is at the Louvre from Sargon's palace. And this one here is in the Louvre as well, another looking across the room to the other side. You see the king holding the lion. And this one here is in the University of Chicago Oriental Institute, Der Sharokin. This is the one in the British Museum. And you see the Balawat Gate behind it, a large Balawat Gate with the bronze hinges that are still, they've been repaired and restored, and it's quite the gate, but everything was pretty large. And there's the two Lamassu holding up the arch at the British Museum. This is the British Museum, I believe. Yes, you go down through that archway. When you go in the British Museum, right on the left-hand side, this is what the first room. Most people go down, and you can work your way around. And the companion pieces are at the Metropolitan Museum right here. So those are the British Museum, and those are the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And the British Museum, again, different. They've got a couple more. The British 10th Army uses it as the crest for the 10th Army. The Lamas relevance for today, even in the modern army. So that's our survey of Sargon II and some of the artifacts that relate to him. Do you want to go back, take a look at anything there, George? Or
That's all amazing. I didn't realize that they had so many of them.
yes.
But
yeah.
And that one slide where you showed that, I think it was an actual sketch.
Oh,
where
yes.
They're excavating the we're gonna call them cherubims.
Henry Layard.
Sphinxes. Yeah, Harry. And it's like 20 feet below the ground level.
Yeah, this one here is not quite as well. We don't know, I guess, how far below, but that one was. But Henry Layard,
Right.
Here's the one. Yeah,
There it is. That's it. The sketch where he's.
That's actually black and white originally. I colorized it. So
Right.
For my book on the history of biblical archaeology. But
and you can see where they're using ropes and they're lowering it down onto a skid.
Yeah.
Like
And they cut it in two pieces too. It was too big to get on the boat, so they had to cut it in two pieces. And
modern technology.
yes. And one of the stories goes that they had one of the boats going down the river loaded with all kinds of artifacts, and it sank. So there's a bunch of artifacts going down. I think it was the Tigris or the Euphrates. I forget which now. And they ended up at the bottom of the drink. Couldn't get them all to the British Museum.
But you can imagine that this was being done in the 19th century. Of course, 19th century, like 18 something, 1840s, 1850s, 1870s.
Yeah,
so
this is
without really
1845.
modern day equipment. Yeah, so they're just moving some really massive stones.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know how the Egyptians did it, but we know how Henry Leonard did it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Layard was quite the character as well. He worked as a diplomat by day, and then he would go at night and do a lot of this hunting around and trying to find stuff. So he treasure hunter.
I thought that was a picture of you.
Yeah, it looks like me. Yes, I tried to emulate him. Yeah.
I said, what in the world? It's just like, Henry Layard, are you sure?
Yeah. No, he's quite the famous archaeologist. He discovered a lot of things that are in the British Museum today. So in my book, I list all the different discoveries and what have you. But these winged bulls are quite interesting. And of course, the Assyrian name for them is Lamassu. So that is why when you hear the word Lamassu, that's what it means. And I was intrigued by the 5 legs here. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they chiseled them out and made them according to perspective, as though they were walking. And some of the reliefs are done that same way with the conquest of the city of Lachish. You can see things happening sort of simultaneously. The firing arrows going through the air, and then the skinning of the slaves and the captives, and all kinds of things like that. So you see everything happening at once, but everything happening in action.
Right.
And that's the way they did their carvings at this time. I thought was really interesting. They really wanted to capture the essence. Of course, today we've got film and photographs and videos, and back then all they had were these reliefs that they would carve on the walls, and in great detail, just beautiful, these carvings. It's very talented people.
So this is Sargon II, and then
Yes,
the son of Sargon II is going to be Sennacherib.
yes, I believe so. Let me just go up on Sennacherib, and then we're going to do Esarhaddon and then Ashurbanipal. So we got three more to.
So next week we're going to be taking a look at Sennacherib, and of course he's the Assyrian that laid siege to Jerusalem. We got the Sennacherib prism,
Yeah.
who gives an account of the siege of Jerusalem, a little bit different than what we read about in the scriptural narrative.
Yeah, well,
Keeping the king like a bird in the cage. I believe that's how they put it.
yeah.
And I think in the biblical text it mentions that something that there's a variant. One says that there's like 195,000 Assyrian troops laying dead in the valley.
Well, don't steal my thunder, George.
Oh, you going to talk about that next week? I'm just leading people to say, hey, stick around,
Yeah,
right?
That's
Because we got a lot going on with this next guy.
right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a
So,
little
okay, okay, I won't be a spoiler alert. I'll leave it alone. This has been great. I'm seeing we're being led into next week, so everybody wants to pay attention to how this is progressing, and to the next Assyrian king that is widely mentioned and represented not just in the biblical text, but also in archaeology. Matter of fact, I picked this up from the Museum of Archaeology and Biblical History last week. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, okay. The Siloam inscription.
Yeah, don't everybody have one in their house?
Man.
That's how easy I picked this up. I've been going to the gym so I can lift this up.
That's
You know?
that's about the original size, but
It is the original size,
cast.
But obviously, if you turn it over, it's actually fiberglass. So,
Okay, cool.
for a second, everybody thought I was related to Arnold, but no, it's just fiberglass. That way, it can hang on the wall at the museum and not accidentally, give way to, because the earlier ones were made out of like a dental stone or plaster, and eventually they would give way and they'd end up, and then you have to put up another one. So we finally got bright and said, hey, let's make them out of fiberglass, and then that way we don't have that problem anymore. So that's what they did.
Early form of Hebrew writing on them. So
yeah, Paleo Hebrew.
Yeah. So
talking about Paleo Hebrew here, we got the Gezer calendar coming up. So we got a number of different things that I borrowed from museums. Of course, the originals. I think this one original here might be in the museum at Istanbul. I think Israel Museum actually has a copy.
You might be right on that one. I think yes.
But that's true with the Salome inscription.
Yeah.
That also is at a museum in Istanbul, Turkey.
Yeah.
Israel Museum also has a copy, just like I have right here. See, so what else do we have? Paleo Hebrew is the little ivory pomegranate that I also borrowed from. So stick tuned, people. Stick around, people. And we got a lot to share. Another one. I borrowed a little silver scroll so we could talk about the scroll from Kitov Inom, right? The oldest biblical inscription. I think it dates to the 6th century.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about the priestly benediction. So here's a little, this is authentic, all right? Silver scroll.
Gnostic scroll.
Yeah. And Then, you know, every bald guy, right? And I'm going to use my white shirt so people can see it. Every bald guy needs a broken comb, an ancient broken comb. You know, it works better, you know, or it doesn't
Right.
work at all because I don't need it. But
Useless
anyway,
items.
useless item, very good. But anyway, these are items that are going to be led into other discussions as well, because in Lachish, I think they found it several years ago, but more recently, they found an inscription on it in the not Paleo Hebrew, actually older. It was in the Proto alphabet, like the Proto Sinaitic alphabet, the early where they were
Amazing.
using Egyptian symbols like hieroglyphs, but they form an alphabet from it. There's debates on that, how it originated, but it's according to Dr. Christopher Rolston, it's
Yep.
probably the earliest. The comb actually has how to use the comb. One side was used for combing, the other side was meant to remove the lice. And they actually, under microscopic conditions, found remnants of lice on the comb. So it was instructions on which side to use for what purpose. So instructions in proto alphabet, I believe it dates to the 17th century. This is fascinating stuff. I don't mean to go off subject, but I'm just giving people a clue that we're bringing in collections from museums. So I got permission to go into their vaults and choose some rare items. And this is something that we're going to do throughout the next year. So 2025 coming up, we're going to we're going to call it, right, the museum vault. This is where we're heading. And we're going to go to museums and we're going to go into vaults. As you know, I worked with museums for a number of years, acquiring different artifacts for them. And I said, hey, you know, I need a favor. I'd like to do this. You know, we'll advertise the museum, but we'll also get to share very rare artifacts. And actually, Dr. Graves, I don't know anybody else that's doing this on YouTube, not at
Hmm.
this point. They
Great.
go into museums and say, hey, this is you know, something that we pulled out of the museum vault. So it's not
George,
actually open for view.
you could
Yep, to
call
the
it Raiders of the Lost Vault.
Raiders of the Lost Vault. Yeah. That would be interesting too. That's a good title. Raiders of the Lost. You need to write that down so we don't forget, because I forget. Every time I have a decent idea, I actually talk it into my phone. Well, I don't want to get this going too long. Uh, Sargon II topic today, leading into Sennacherib next week. And this is all going to be fascinating. And once again, you got your coloring books coming out for Christmas, both Old Testament and New Testament periods. All right.
And biblical
And
people.
then we're going to go into 2025, starting to bring in artifacts. I like that idea, Raiders of the Lost Vault. That's cool. And hey, I'm glad I thought of it.
That's right. You'll never know what you'll come up with from these podcasts. So stay tuned,
Yes,
folks.
great stuff.
You'll always
Right.
learn something new and something different. And um, we're up to quite a few thousand, I understand. And
Yes,
we're
we're over 140,000 now. We're climbing our way up. You know, we got our little plaque from YouTube. Thanks to everybody for subscribing. Really appreciate that. So for the first 100,000, we did get our plaque from YouTube. What's it called? The silver button, I believe. And as soon as I get it, I'll show it to everybody. And then I'll do some kind of whatever Bible Interact said I can do. I think they said I could photocopy it, and then I'll send you a copy so you can have the photocopy, nice picture in color, and then I'll probably have a picture as well that I can put in the background, and I'll have it framed. Uh, so really cool. Really, it's been a really cool year. Unexpected, but really appreciated. So once again, this is what we're looking at. We got Sennacherib next week. Also, I got a new ad out. This one's going to be cool for Christmas. It's called the Christmas coin. Now, I'm not going to give it away, right? I'm not going to give it away. So if you see the ad out there, you want to click on that, called the Christmas coin, the Star of Bethlehem with the question mark. The Star of Bethlehem on a coin? Really? Well, guess what? Maybe. All right. It's for you to decide. All right. The ad's out there. And as soon as the ad runs for the entire month of December, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. People are going to really enjoy this ad. And then we got the artifacts coming in from the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Lost Vault. That's going to be fun. And we were talking about archaeologists on the program that were contacting Dr. Eric Klein. And he wrote a book, 1477, the end of the late Bronze Age. Very interesting. Dr. James Hoffmeyer.
Have these all confirmed, George?
Not confirmed yet. They said they would, but the dates are not hooked in. But you know how I am.
Maybe you wouldn't have, maybe you shouldn't announce them then if they haven't been confirmed. But anyway.
That's okay. I'm just saying who I contacted. Yeah. They've been on lots of programs. Anyway, archaeologists such as Eric Klein, James Hoffmeyer. That's two. We had Jody Magnus on. Yeah. And then Dr. Rami Arav. So very well-known archaeologists that have excavated in the land of Israel for many, many years. And so we're looking forward to having more archaeologists on the program. We've had you, and we had Dr. Scott Stripling and Dr. Gary Byers. So on we go. And we're going to have them both. We're going to have everybody on again. And then Trinity Southwest has their museum. And Dean Byers invited us over. So we're going to do some filming over there as well. So a lot to look forward to in 2025. And on we go. So everybody, have a great day. Thank you for subscribing and sticking with us. We got more planned, of course. And Dr. David Graves, thank you for your time and your presentation on Sargon II. And don't forget, people, he's got his coloring books out. And next week, Sennacherib. Can't miss that one. Thank you for your time.